Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome on into the swear word. I'm your host, Brandon Swear, and hey, this is a podcast for the chilihead community by the chilihead community. Regardless of your spice tolerance, this is the place for you. Up tonight, we have an amazing episode on deck. Tonight, we're going to be talking about how you can go from kitchen to cult following and how to market your hot sauce brand without burning up all of your cash. So, episode 165 starts now. What's going on, Swear Nation? So glad to have everyone here. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, and or Apple Podcasts, thank you so much for being here and continuing to make this podcast what it is. Continue to share this out with other like-minded chili heads or individuals that are just curious about the world of hot, because where you find everything to do with the world of hot. And speaking of that, tonight, we're going to be talking more towards those individuals that are maybe either just thinking about starting their own hot sauce brand or spicy product company, all the way to those that are grinding it out, they're doing their thing, all those that are just, maintaining the overall business, ways they can do this at different points and different stages in the overall process. So with that being said, there's not going to be a hot or not featured here tonight. And we're just really going to get deep into this conversation. So jump on in and let's go ahead and kick off tonight's episode. All right, so let's talk the real talk today. Because ultimately, you're either making a hot sauce, you're thinking about it, or maybe you're making a spicy snack. So you're selling some pepper powders, you're creating some tinctures, or anything in that overall spicy product universe. And chances are you ultimately did not start this because you just absolutely love marketing. You started this because you love capsaicin. You love the way that it brings people together. You enjoy sharing ways of amplifying and enhancing your foods all around the world. This ultimate idea of how do you get your product that you love, cherish, and poured into the hands of others and let everyone around the world know. So we're going to talk about a few different ways of ultimately what you started. So you started this because you had that one recipe, or you grew that one pepper, or maybe someone, told you, hey, you should really sell this, or you should think about selling this. All of these things are the catalyst at which starts the overall journey for most folks. So suddenly you're not just a maker of these products. Next thing, you're trying to figure out how you're going to create a brand around this and how you're really going to market that brand. So then really starts to become the next big question that starts to hit. How do you market this thing without really blowing the overall money that you don't have or burning yourself out in the process? How do you manage to make sure that you stay intact with today's day and age? So today's episode is all about marketing spicy brands the smart way. And yes, this can still apply to other businesses as well, but the primary focus here is going to be towards those spicier brands, whether that be a hot sauce company starting out, you're making a spicy treat, snack, trail mix, pepper powder, spicy drink mix, whatever the case may be, all of these will fit in some way, some shape, some form. Now, not only are we going to just talk about the overall best practices and things that you can implement that would be effective as of today, we're also going to break it down in, let's just call it 3 different categories. So you got your free tier, you're doing everything yourself, but it's free. You have your low cost tier. There's going to be a little bit more bells, a little bit more whistles, some things that are going to help you kind of do some of that lift that you were having to do just solely in the free. And then, of course, the one that you're probably not too worried about right now, which is the uncapped budget, meaning if it works and it scales, we're just going to continue to throw money at it. So you have the full breakdown in that way. And we're going to be breaking this down also in a different way as well, which is the focus on brand launch, on the growth of the business, and on maintaining your overall presence in the space. And for each of these, we'll talk about what matters to you, what you can't ignore, and what works best if you're just solo or a small team, or you're working with a fully staffed overall company. This episode is about clarity, not complexity. So, while we may talk about some of these at a higher level, we're not going to quite drill down all the way into each one of these. If you want to learn a little bit more, we can definitely roll that out. So let me know down below in the comments if any of these, as we're going through this conversation here tonight, are, maybe something you want to learn a little bit more about. This would be a great opportunity for me to be able to, also create additional content around that. But at the same time, maybe you have some one-off questions, maybe you have some things, go ahead, reach out on socials, and we'll get that squared away. But let's go ahead and jump into this very first part here. So before we talk about platforms, tools, or any of that other stuff, we need to talk about the things that we need to do, the things we need to lock in to be able to have this work out. So every marketing action falls into one of these three main buckets here that we're going to be talking about. So we're going to be talking about the free route, as mentioned before. Costs money? No. But does it cost time? Yes. So while there is not a monetary drain, there will be a time consumption drain, which time is money, money is time. You still have this overall dilemma. But as with any business, if you want people to know about it, it's going to take some time. With this, we're going to be talking about things that are like content, building a community, engaging in these conversations, and of course, staying consistent, because all of this stuff really matters and adds up. So free marketing works best early on, but it never really stops being relevant. The difference here is as you start to find out what's working and you're seeing some growth in the business, here's where you want to start to take the lift off of you and instead, start to delegate these, whether that be to tools or to other team members that you can now bring on, other avenues like that. So that is category number one. Number two, we're going to be talking about the low cost setup. So this is typically a smaller spend, but also has a higher leverage point here. So think things like boosted posts, email tools, simple client relationship management, engagement avenues here. Think about like automations. So things that are taking the work off your plate, but you have a system in place to keep things running, and just straight up basic ads. So these are low cost marketing items where efficiency really lives. Next, you have the uncapped category. It's where you're focused on scale. This is where if something is working, you're going to pour fuel on top of it. You want that flame higher. This is where you're really going to be leaning into those paid ads more. You're going to might be working with some influencer partnerships in this area. You're going to be worrying and working towards more of that wholesale outreach. You're going to be focused on the public relations, and you're going to be focused on more of the SEO aspect here. So uncapped just doesn't mean reckless. It sometimes also means repeatable. So don't get too bogged down in the idea of uncapped being, somebody that's just got so much money to throw away they can't fail. Because ultimately you can still have issues of failure, moments of poor judgment where you're throwing good money at bad things. Main thing we want to focus on here is making sure we're not being reckless and that what we are doing is repeatable and still gaining traction. All right, phase one, we will call this the brand launch. So ultimately, this is you focusing solely on the launch. The launch is not being spread thin. The launch is not trying to be all these different things and speak to everyone at once. No, you want to become discoverable, and you want to make sure that when you are discovered, you are memorable. So you don't have to worry about being perfect. This is not the time to focus on perfection. You also do not want to end up, worrying about being everywhere at once. I may not have a hot sauce or spicy product brand, but that doesn't preclude this same concept from applying to anything and everything else you do in life. I know one of the biggest things I faced early on is I wanted to be everywhere. And realistically, I've learned over that time, it's more important to focus in on maybe 1 to 2 different areas at a time, establish, build, move, establish, build, move, and then you're just maintaining in those initial places that you have built up and really continuing to build up this momentum instead of having to worry about being everywhere at once. Another thing you don't want to do when you're just launching the business is you don't need to worry about going viral. Virality of this all, sure, it does help. Sure, it does continue to perpetuate growth within the space. But when you're just launching the brand, this is not the main focus. If you focus on simply that, you're going to get frustrated, burned out, and you're going to want to abandon ship before ever getting started. This ties back into the idea of don't worry about being perfect. What you need to do is make sure that you're just clear with your messaging, clear with your branding, and clear with who you are as a company. Next, let's talk about the overall different ways in which we can launch the business. So from the launch phase itself, we're just talking simply about the free options, the free do's, the must-haves, the things that you need to do. So if you're launching a spicy brand, these are the non-negotiables. These are the things that you want to do and have to do. First off, you need to have a story, like why this exists, why you, and why now. If you can't explain that, take the time, think about it, and help establish your overall spicy brand identity. Because people don't just buy sauce, they buy the identity, they buy the curiosity, and they want to belong to something. It's not enough to be, oh, I'm this orange sauce, oh, I'm this red sauce, I'm this whatever. Because at the end of the day, think about how many times you've gone to, whether that be a shopping market or grocery store, anything of that nature, and you see, it doesn't have to just be hot sauce, but any kind of product in general, and it's sitting there on the shelf next to 30 to 40 others that are speaking to the same need, desire, and want to the consumer side. But, you look at it and you're like, I don't know why I should pick this one over that one. This is where making sure you have a clear story, a clear why, a clear reason, it helps instill that identity and it really helps to build up that belongingness to want to buy that brand. Your story should answer a few of these things, like why did you start? What makes this product that you're selling different than everyone else? And who is this for? Being able to identify and hone in on your target customer is going to be absolutely crucial. It sounds silly, but you ultimately want to be able to take a pencil out, write down, or type this out, whatever you want. I find it's best to just write this thing down, and because I like to doodle with this. So what I will doodle is I will create one sole customer. I will define this customer. I'll even give them a name. I'll talk about what they do for work. What are they doing on their free time? What does their life look like? I am defining and making this person who doesn't exist into reality. This helps identify who you are targeting and who this is really meant for. And no, it's not just does it taste good? That's not the story. Sure, that helps, but that is not the story in which you're going to find a good, substantial amount of means to want to continue to engage and bring in new people. All right, next up, obviously, now you got your story. Now you have the brand, you have the product. You're starting to make this establishment of the overall reality happen. So next up, you're going to make content that documents and not just simply performs. You want to make sure that that early on content is you making your sauce. It's showing those bottling days. It's showing those market setups. It's showing the failures or talking to the failures. It's talking about the wins. You're taking the overall viewership, the eyes on this content, on the personal journey with you. This is building up that brand establishment, that brand recognition, and helping fuel the reason, the drive, and the passion for someone to want to buy into your product. So, being able to show how you're making this takes them on that journey. Showing the bottling process really removes the idea of just you're some massive company where it's just you're cranking out products and you're not thinking about the end result. It's also showing the market setups in which you're out there, you're plugged in, you are connecting with others, you're showing the overall response of how people are viewing your product when at the booth, or you're showing that you're committed and you're not going to just fall out overnight. All of these things happen. The failures, the wins, all this is great for continuing to build trust faster than just simply polished ads will ever do. So, platforms that perform the strongest with that are going to be things like Instagram, pairing that with Reels and Stories, or TikTok, putting out some of those short hit videos. This is where you can be a little bit more raw and less of a production value with the whole TikTok side. Another thing that you can lean into here is going to be YouTube Shorts. All of these are great. So ultimately, that short form wins early here because ultimately it's a lower barrier to entry, higher discoverability right now, and you're going to get faster feedback. If someone doesn't like it, they're going to skip on to the next thing. Or if they don't like what you said in there, they're going to leave the comment. So ultimately, you're going to gain good, bad, and different. Obviously, social media being what it is, you're going to hear more about the bad than you're going to hear about the good at the start. So don't take every single comment to gospel and hold it near and dear in your heart and change everything over one person's feedback. Take the time, understand, analyze, gather it all, and then make your own assessments based off of some other metrics. But we can dive deeper into that later. Next up, we're going to be talking about the overall community first aspect. So before ads, before scale, you want to focus on building a community. What does this look like? How can you do this from a free standpoint? Well, things like farmers markets. Obviously you have to pay to be out there at the majority of these, but you're in business. It's cost of doing business. It's not some exorbitant cost in this overall grand scheme of things. You are out there to perform business. So, building the community is a great way through these farmers markets, getting to know other companies that are out there, getting to know the consumer base that is shopping in that available market that you're at, understanding what they're wanting, what they're needing, what they're looking for, and really being held to the standard of being able to identify and showcase why your sauce, your product fits their needs and their wants. So next thing is, once again, this is absolutely free, and a great way to go about this is the Facebook groups. Get out there, get in the Facebook groups. Don't just, shove your product in front of everyone. Actually participate, out there, share some inspirational things, kind of showcase what you've been doing. A lot what we talked about earlier, showcasing the wins, the losses, showcasing really kind of like the process in which you're making this. This isn't you sharing your overall recipe or how to. This is just quick hits. You don't even have to have audio on. Maybe just leave a camera running, you're running around, you're doing your whole thing, you're throwing that up there. These are great ways to get plugged into some Facebook groups. Same could be applied for Reddit and Discord if your overall product works well with Discord. Now, Discord, Reddit might be a little bit more niched down for that, but that is two other free options. Another, of course, is, once again, like I said, you're going to be getting comments, you're going to be getting feedback when you're posting on these platforms. Get engaged in that comment section. You don't have to engage with the negativity, but being able to know what's going on, showing that you care to take that extra step to engage, to comment, all of these things matter. I mean, it goes simply back to you be a good human being, and you're going to find that others are as well going to be good human beings. It is simple as that. It sounds very, a little bit nuanced in that, but, just You want to have conversations, not just impressions. You don't want eyes on it. You want to be able to really invoke that trust. You're wanting to invoke that reason, that justification, that brand awareness. You're wanting to build into the drive as to why someone wants to do business with you and choose your product over another. Next up, we got the low cost launch phase. So, this is where brands usually underinvest, and simply they just shouldn't in this. So, if you have that low cost budget for that launch phase, you're going to want to focus on things like a real website, not just simply a placeholder or not something that's just a simple template that's online. You want to have something that is true to you, true to your brand. This is your digital footprint. This is your digital identification online. Most folks may not know who's actually creating this product, but guess what they are going to know? What you look like online, how you show up, how you present yourself, and how you engage with others. So making sure that your site can explain the product, can be set up to be able to capture emails, tell your story, and work well, visibly, understand, traverse the website, all these great things on a mobile structure. That is absolutely crucial. Think about how many times in today's day and age you pull up something on your computer versus the times that you pull something up on your phone. Having a mobile ready version of your site is absolutely important. So, this is where platforms like WebDX are really able to help build and shine in this area because the sites aren't just pretty, they're functional, they're fast, and of course, they're conversion focused. So, this will help in avenues of being able to really just showcase what you have going on, speak to your brand, and continue to build that trust. All right, next up, email from day one. Email is not dead. All right. It's, yes, it's a little bit of an owned attention, right? So you're wanting to be able to, of course, have a nice online brand presence, or maybe when you're out at the markets, you're having ways of which you're able to, engage. Maybe you're giving a discount. Maybe you're doing something that is able to be able to have you grab not only a name, but also an email and a way to kind of keep in touch. Because ultimately, as long as you have that means and they have willingly signed up for this, you're going to be able to continue to get your stuff, your content, your sales announcements, all of these things, which farmers markets you're going to be at, all these great avenues at which you're able to share with those that are wanting to join you in your journey as you create this business. So even if you only have 25 or 100 or 300 people, go ahead, start now. Send them updates, send them things like the launch updates, send them, first announcement teasers to, behind the scenes stuff, whether that be sauce making day, product making day, overall quick hits of what some samplings have been like, the feedback, real live feedback that you're getting, announcements about restocks. Maybe you just sold out. Maybe you're crushing it, but now you need to let everyone know that might have missed out on the last time that your product was in stock, that you've now restocked. You can also make announcements about events that you have going on, whether it be upcoming farmers markets, hot sauce conventions, etc. This is a great way to continue to stay relevant and in front of those that are, wanting to know and love your brand. All right, so we've talked about the free, we've talked about the low cost. So let's talk about the uncapped phase. We've talked about the free, we've talked about the low cost. Let's talk about the uncapped phase to this whole launch process. So if budget's not the biggest, worry of yours, and you're just going to be making sure that you want to have the best opportunity and chance for your business to grow, you don't want to worry about scaling it just yet. You're simply there to test things. So you're going to want to get plugged in with people like micro influencers that are not celebrities. They don't have the most massive of accounts, but you're going to focus towards that more small creators. You're going to be looking towards that overall food reviewers, the chili heads, and just more that niche spice pages. So whether they're doing, reviews, whether they're speaking to this, maybe they've just seem to have a pulse on the way at which these different food channels are really kind of trending. This would be a great way to get plugged in with these smaller creators. So you're going to be sending product, you're building this relationship, and along the way, you're not just going to send product and build that relationship and then go wash your hands and walk away from it. You're going to want to really track these different responses. Track the responses that you're getting from those creators, track the responses that you're getting from new clients and customers coming in, track the responses of the overall engagement within the posts, whether it be coming from your account, tagging them, or something that they've created, tagging you. Are you seeing the traction happen? What is that feedback looking like? This is where you're really going to be testing things out more so than really turning up the dial. Because simply remember, you are in launch phase here. So that would be more of the must-haves, non-negotiable aspects to the free, low cost, and of course, the uncapped version of the launch phase. So up next, we're going to be talking about the growth phase and what that entails. So growth phase, this is where the brands start to either stall or you explode. Growth is all about repeat customers and building a new audience. Gaining additional exposure is simply just as important as continuing to have that repeat customer business. So let's break this down once again into the free, the low cost, and the uncapped for the growth phase. So for the free growth phase, things that you're going to want to focus on here are really consistent content pillars. So while this may seem a little bit foreign, or maybe you're not quite as familiar with this is really at this stage where you should be focusing on what content performs and what your response is like from your overall audience. Now, the different ways to view these content pillars and how they work is simply by being able to know exactly what your niche is. So in this case, whether that be a hot sauce brand for the sake of this or any other spicy product, that is your area of expertise, right? That is your brand. That is your main focus of that primary content. Now, from there, you want to have 3, maybe 5 of these other sub content pillars. Not only does this help break things down, this also helps alleviate the question of what do I post today? What am I going to do? Like, how am I going to continue to perpetually crank out something to be able to build that recognition and let people know that I'm here, and to continue to get in front of those individuals that are just, maybe not even familiar with you, really being out in the space. So a few examples here of some content pillars that would work very well for a company that is selling hot sauce or some kind of spicy treat. You want to focus on education aspect of this. Maybe you focus on the different heat levels of peppers, or the different heat levels of your sauces, or the overall ingredients choice, and like why this ingredient is, revolutionary to what you're doing or important to what you're doing, or why this one ingredient really helps this product sing. That is the education aspect to this pillar. Like I said, I'm going to give you a few here. If these work with you, if these resonate, which most of these should, this is a great way to continue to push this forward. Next up, you're going to want to have something that's entertaining. So simply, working towards, whether that be watching people create a challenge out of your product, or the simple reaction aspect. This is that shock and awe. This is that entertainment. This is that flashy, maybe it's something silly. Maybe you're jumping on the next viral trend, but you're finding a way to intertwine your company into the entertainment aspect. This is helping, alleviate the idea of someone getting burned out of your brand. So you're bringing some fun to this. You got the education, so now you got some fun. Next thing you're going to want to focus on, another potential pillar for you, is going to be the authority aspect. So this is like showcasing the reasons why the quality of ingredients matter, or why sourcing the ingredients through XYZ process, or why going with these bottles is better than those bottles for you, or breaking down the procedures and processes in which you go about things, obviously without giving away all of the secret sauce. So this is a great way to establish yourself as an authority. So now you got your main topic, you're talking about your products, you're talking about the education aspect, you're talking about the entertainment aspect, and you're talking about the authority aspect of this whole. Next up, what else did we talk about? Well, we talked about building up a community. You know, community is what continues to drive you forward and keeps you in business. So you're going to want to focus on, the customers, really showcasing some of these overall comments, the feedback, the reposts, the engagement, the positivity aspect is great here. Showcase, highlight, find fun ways to have that engagement aspect. Maybe you're wanting your top commenter and you're going to showcase them for the week or the month or whatever the case may be. This is a great way to help instill and build that community. Another thing you can do here is focusing on the SEO, but without overthinking it. So now that you have the content pillars, now you have an idea also how to build your SEO around this without really worrying about or overthinking too much. So things like blog posts or YouTube descriptions or product pages, all these things really add into the overall SEO at a free level. So people will typically Google best hot sauce for tacos or spicy sauce without vinegar or Carolina Reaper sauce that tastes good. Answer those questions, showcase those, and make them resourceful for others to find you online. So we've talked about the overall free version of the growth phase. Let's talk about the low cost version. So the low cost growth phase. So what are we going to do here? We're going to boost what's already working and never boost cold content. So boosting this content is simply a higher engagement post. Like this is the thing we're going to be focusing on. This is where we're steering away from cold content and focus on what is resonating now, what has a strong and proven video performance. You got a great message, you got a great story. You're connecting with those individuals that are buying your product. You're being able to continue to have that growth of getting in front of other people that may have never known about your product, but you're using proven videos to do so. So this is where you're going to want to start to figure out something like a $5 to possibly $20 a day as to where you can spend towards these ads to help boost them. Now, this can really help the content to solidify itself, but also will help in the overall exposure, as I had mentioned a second ago. Next up, you're going to want to have a means of a nice client relationship management tool, and you're going to want to pair this with some automation. This is where tools are extremely important because I don't know about you, but the idea of handwriting every person's name, every person's email, all the times that they've purchased, kind of the last thing that they've purchased, all this stuff, and reviewing this manually by hand every day is not something that is reasonable when you're going to be running your own business. So even small brands need email sequencing. They're going to need missed message follow-ups. You're going to want to make sure that you are getting those reviews on products that you have sold. So you're going to want to have automated review requests. You're going to want to be tracking those leads as they come in. What's working for you? Is it coming off of one video in particular? Did it perform better through a specific email campaign that you had rolling out? Did you have some kind of abandoned cart, overall process at which you will have an automation that will reach out to those individuals? So this is where things like WebDX style of systems are the quiet win right here. So that's one dashboard with multiple touch points and no chaos. So this is where I tend to lean into WebDX for this, and it's worked out great for so many other clients that I have personally worked with, and it's simply why I like to be able to do my business with the WebDX. They make it simple, painless, easy. But that's just one tool. You can use just about any of these that will be able to meet all that categories of the email sequencing, missed message follow-ups, abandoned carts, review requests, and lead tracking. And as long as you have a means to collect all that customer data or interested customers, and you're able to automate the system, which is taking the burden off of you, where you can focus on growing your business on what you do best, this is possibly the most crucial step in the overall low cost growth step. A little bit silly to say this, but the uncapped growth. Now, this is where obviously budget does not matter, and we are just solely focused on growth. You're going to want to go paid ads with the intent of not just look at us, but let's retarget. Let's focus on those abandoned carts to the max. Let's focus on repeat buyers and seasonal pushes. So this is where you're really going to lean heavy into the idea of broadening your reach and getting into new markets that you might not have already been. You're going to be focused on those individuals that have came to your website, maybe put a few things in their cart, or maybe they've thought about buying a few things, and you're able to track and know what they were looking at and target them and get word back to them like, hey, got this sale, got this promo, got whatever the case may be, to drive them back to your website so they do commit and go through with purchasing that product. Another thing that you can do here is, rewarding and or continuing to market towards those individuals that have bought from you in the past, and it continues to increase the amount of repeat buys that you see, as well as highlighting and showcasing different campaigns of either email or text where you're showcasing and pushing out a seasonal product or a seasonal sale, something that really continues to remind those that you're there, you have a great product, and oh, by the way, they might be out of that product. So that is absolutely crucial there. The next thing you can do is focus on your wholesale outreach. So retailers tend to want proof of demand. They want to know that the product that they are taking the shelf space to put there is actually going to be something seeked out and wanted and demanded and desired. So having consistent branding is absolutely important as well for these retailers. Also having a reliable means of communication, because they're not going to want to put you on the shelves if they can't get a hold of you, let alone to order any more product, and you're just missing things. You're dropping the ball. So you're going to want to make sure, if you're going to go focus on the wholesale outreach, you have proof of demand, consistent branding, and you have a reliable means of communication. Marketing helps sales here more than discounts ever will whenever you're talking about the wholesale outreach. Wholesale outreach, you're already knowing that you're taking shorter, profit margin just to be able to get your product in there. But now you have to really showcase and prove that demand. So marketing will help drive the sales to those locations. All right. So phase 3 of this process, maybe you've done the initial brand launch. Maybe you have been working on growth, and now you feel like I just really need to focus on maintaining my overall presence here. So this is where real brands start to really separate themselves. So maintenance is all about staying relevant, staying trusted, and staying visible. So free things you can do to simply maintain your overall position in the space. You have the community engagement. This is replying to comments. This is sharing user content. This is showing appreciation for those that show up for you. This is being a champion for those in, whether that be the comments in some Facebook groups, in a Discord, in a private community, whatever the case may be. Maybe you're sending out an email blast recognizing a few folks in a private setting, right? You're not having to showcase it to the world, although you could. You want to really show that you have taken the time to really appreciate those that appreciate you and what you have going on. So people stay loyal to brands that feel human. Nobody wants to do business with a robot. Sure, other businesses may see that, and that's what ends up causing where consumers feel numb to the product. This is where consumers feel like, well, if I got products A, B, and C, and A is sure cranking out a consistent product, but doesn't seem to resonate, well, product B may not be quite as great as product A in the overall experience and flavor, but they have that better story. They have that better reason as to why I want to be there with them. And I want to watch them win. You're going to see people lean into that. Or product C, it's just simply someone has managed to get onto the shelves and has not really done anything. And we question whether or not they're going to be there, in the years to come. So being sure that you stay loyal to the brand and you stay true to that human aspect, the whole reason that you got in it, the why, and what that overall story is, and continuing to stay true to who you are and to who your brand is absolutely crucial. And one of the best things you can do for a free perspective. Now, from the low cost maintenance side, this is where you're going to want to focus on things that are like reputation management. This is where reviews matter more than anything. You're going to want to start stacking those Google reviews, maybe some Facebook reviews. You're going to want to send out those direct messages to really be able to ensure that you are getting all the possible good reputation feedback from your business, from your products as possible. Because let's face it, how many times do you do a Google search online? You're trying to find best Thai restaurant in this area, or I want to find a great authentic Mexican restaurant near me. And you're looking it up. What's the first thing you do? It's not always just proximity. You go, sure, proximity. And then it's like, okay, well, I see 3 right here. Which one has the best reviews? You're not going to go to the one that's a 1 star with, oh, my food was cold and there's bugs everywhere. The person was rude, blah, blah. You're going to go for those companies that have a strong reputation. They show and absolutely are showcasing and highlighting the positive feedback that they have been given. So make sure that you're leaning into the reputation management from a low cost standpoint. You're going to want to respond to those. You're going to want to engage with those. And you want to learn from what is said during those feedback. Now, for the uncapped maintenance side of things, this is where you're going to want to really lean into partnerships, even cross promotions, different events, and collaborations. So ultimately, you're going to be sharing the audience. Shared audiences scale faster than ads. So making sure that you are collaborating with others, you're really ingraining into these partnerships. You're utilizing this cross-platform aspect to gain further exposure and maintaining that exposure throughout this. Events are also crucial at, maintaining that overall presence in the space. A lot of other sauce makers and other spicy product makers in general will tell you all day long how these events, these different sauce expos, etc., are not the thing that keeps them in business. It is the thing that keeps them plugged in and tapped into with the community, whether that be with the consumer base or just simply others in the space. There's that level of camaraderie and there's that level of brand awareness throughout this whole entire thing that helps you maintain what you've worked so hard to accomplish. So don't let that slip you by. So now that we've talked about the different ways in which, you can go with the free marketing, the low cost marketing, or the uncapped, in all the different phases of launching to growth to maintenance of the overall brand, let's talk about the team size strategy here. So for those that are just solo founders, maybe focus on 1 or 2 platforms in total as you're starting. Really lean into that short form content, build that email list, and establish a nice community here. You don't need to chase everything, definitely when you're a sole founder, because ultimately, let's face it, you're making the products, you're oftentimes bottling, labeling, packaging, sending them out, doing everything in line that you need to. There's no reason to chase multiple platforms, multiple different areas of content that you could possibly do. Focus on the things that work, focus on what you know that you're doing right, and focus on 1 to 2 platforms before you start to build and expand. From a small team's standpoint, you want to really be able to delegate and divide these roles out. Make sure you speak towards the strong suits of those individuals that you're working with. You want to have nice batch content ready to go. You're going to want to start building in automation to help alleviate the stress and the load off of your small team already so that it's running optimal and having the best chance at growth. You're wanting to start those paid ad testings. You're wanting to really lean in to find what works, what doesn't work. That way you can be the most efficient with what you have going on. From a full team perspective, you want to have that systems that matter here. You're going to want to really digest, lean in, and break down all the possible data. You're going to probably have someone focus solely on maintaining that growth trajectory, how the markets are performing, how the content's performing, where your products are sending out to, the volume and intensity at which these products are flowing. You're going to want to find out, you're going to have somebody working on the reputation side of things. All these things are really stacking in. You've probably still already continued to build in towards the automation side of things. All of the things that we've talked about in the low cost and the free are going to already be buffered into this full team breakdown. Another thing you're going to want to have is really being able to have that integration here. So this is where marketing really starts to become an engine and not a chore. The second you have that larger team, you've delegated it out. So now it's not this massive sack of bricks on your back that you're trying to walk uphill on. You now have someone in each section to hold a portion of these bricks so that now what you have been tasked out to do, the growth, the plan, the overall model that you have focused on building your company around is feasible, obtainable, and done so that is going to make this journey enjoyable. So closing thoughts here. Marketing isn't about doing more. It's about doing the right things in the right order. Free builds trust, low cost builds efficiency, and uncapped builds scale. And if there's one thing you can't ignore, it's clarity beats creativity every single time. If people don't understand you, they simply won't buy from you. And that's how brands grow. That's how spicy companies win. And that's how you turn heat into longevity. I hope you enjoyed the conversation here tonight. And if you have an online business, whether that be a hot sauce business, a spicy product, or maybe some other kind of online brand that you've been wanting to or thinking about building or thinking about really bringing to market, hopefully this information here, while it was simply an highlight overview, not super depth, detailed breakdown, was able to be beneficial for you to maybe have that level of clarity and that understanding. Maybe you have been in the grind of this whole entire process and you've been trying to figure things out, but maybe there's been just something that you haven't had click yet. Maybe hearing it in a different light allows you to help reprioritize what you're doing, how you're doing it, and making sure that you're doing so efficiently. Quick shout out here and shout out Podvision and WebDX, as they both are great at being able to help build that brand identity, help establish and help automate throughout the whole entire process. And with tools like WebDX, having the full website builds as well as the client relationship management tools and automations available. This is a great pairing for any business, regardless of whether you're in a spicy niche or if you're out there performing some form of a service. So I highly recommend reaching out to them. If you enjoyed this conversation, maybe want a little bit deeper dive into one of these avenues and areas, go ahead and let me know down below in the comments, and I will definitely make sure to get that done up. And if you want to have a personal talk with me or with WebDX on this, highly recommend reaching out to WebDX or reaching out on socials, and I will make sure to gladly get a better understanding of what you are doing, how you're doing it, and maybe some areas and avenues in which you can best serve not only yourself, your time, but also your company's growth. Want to give a quick shout out for all those that have been rocking since day one with the podcast. Thank y'all so much for sharing this out and continue to do so. If you just recently found the podcast, thank you so much for being here. There's so many different podcast episodes and different avenues of the spicy community encapsulated, showcased, and featured here on the podcast. So definitely a great one to dive on into, and super excited to be able to round out 2025. And want to say, hey, we have an AMA, so an Ask Me Anything episode coming up, planned for actually before the end of the year, but it might end up getting moved to the very start of 2026. So either way, that is coming up. If you would like to submit some questions for that AMA, go ahead, do so on socials or reach out on theswearword.net and send those questions on over there. Be glad to get those loaded up on that episode and dive on into it. Also have a few other fun things rolling out for 2026, so I cannot wait to share those with y'all as well. And want to say, if you're on a platform that allows for a rating and review of the overall podcast, please do so. That helps us get in front of more chili heads or individuals that are curious about the world of hot. So go ahead, leave a 5-star review, and I would greatly appreciate that. Also, want to give a quick shout out that we have current sponsorship opportunities available for the podcast. So if you'd like to be a featured segment on the podcast, if you would like to have a sponsored segment on the podcast, go ahead, reach out, theswearword.net or on socials, and we'll get that conversation started. Want to say new episodes drop every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Central. So go ahead, lock in, have a great time. Want to have a shout out for our current sponsors, podvision.io. If you're looking to grow your brand, start your brand, you've hit a bump in the road, you're trying to figure things out, I highly recommend checking out podvision.io for all of those needs, as well as webdx.one. Maybe you have an online site, maybe you had a guy at one point, you lost contact with them. Highly recommend checking out webdx.one. Best of all, they get you looking great online while you get to focus on what you do best. I'm Brandon Swear, and from everything from the world of hot, this has been The Swear Word.